Hi everyone, my name is Maddie, welcome back to my channel and welcome to this video of me reading one of my most anticipated releases of 2020. So last year I read The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow and I personally really enjoyed it. And so when her sophomore novel, The Once and Future Witches, was announced to be coming out this year, I was so excited. The synopsis sounded completely different to The 10,000 Doors of January, but nonetheless sounded extremely interesting and I was so excited to get to it. So much so that I actually requested it as my first ever book on NetGalley. I hadn't personally used NetGalley before, as I always prefer reading physical books over ebooks. I actually always really struggled to read ebooks. I don't focus on them. I don't feel like I take books in as much that way. However, a month or so ago now, I went and bought myself an iPad mini, which I basically use as an e-reader now, and it is a million times better than reading on my phone, which is where I used to read ebooks. So with that, I was like, okay, to get me into reading ebooks, I need an incentive. So why not pick up the most anticipated book for me of the year? And as I said, that is The Once and Future Witches by Alex E. Harrow. So I requested it on NetGalley. Luckily, I was approved, and so I read it. For anyone who doesn't know, this follows three sisters who are descended from a line of witches, and they all are in completely different life circumstances. They're separated from each other, and right towards the beginning of this book, they become reunited. And it's a story about feminism and female empowerment, and just connecting as family, but also keeping yourself safe. And it's so hard to describe because it's such a gorgeous character-driven novel, but it is absolutely phenomenal. As I mentioned, I do have an ARC of this, and it is being released on the 13th of October in America and the 15th of October in the UK, so keep an eye out for it then if you want to get it. But before I get into a full review of this, I thought I would include the few vlog clips I have of me reading it, so have a quick little montage of vlog clips and such, and then I will come back to you with a full review and all my thoughts. I am reading The Once and Future Witches by Alex Harrow, which is one of my most anticipated releases of the year. I've read about 5%, which I think equates to about 20 pages, and I loved that first section. I just read that really quickly. I haven't had much time. I'm currently 16% in, so I'm not very far. I did start this on the 1st, but I barely read any, and then I've read about 10% today, but I am loving this. I don't really know how to give a synopsis for it because like the full plot hasn't really got going yet. So yeah, I can give you a bit of a premise though, which is you're following these three sisters who come from a line of witches, but it's in a time where witches are so forbidden. They think most of them have been killed off. Obviously some of them haven't though. And these three sisters have been separated for a while and they're on three completely different paths in life. And we're picking up when they've kind of come back together very suddenly. And all three of them have such different personalities, such different lives. It's so interesting. There's a lot of talk about the suffragist movement in the US, which if I'm honest, I know little about. I know quite a lot about the suffragist and suffragette movement in the UK. I learnt it in history at school, but I have no clue how that translated to the US, so it's interesting seeing that. It is set in Salem, this book, so you know, Salem witch trials, all kind of links in. But favourite thing so far, I discovered one of the sisters is gay. It's not written on page that she is, but it is so blindingly obvious and I'm so excited to see that possibly become a thing. But I am, yes, very much enjoying it. Going to go and sit and read for a while now, I think, and try and get a chunk of this done. I am 30 pages away from the end of Once and Future Witches. I am adoring it still, honestly. It is shaping up to be one of my favourite books. It is so feminist, all the characters are so kick-ass, I love them. Yeah, I'm obsessed, honestly. I really truly am, and I cannot wait to read the last 30 pages, which I'm going to go and do now. It is so good. I will give you my full thoughts once I've finished it because I'm gonna need a minute to process and think about what I'm going to say. But oh, it's so good. It's so good. I could not recommend it highly enough. It comes out in October and everyone needs to read it. If you like feminist, witches, fantasy, amazing sister relationships, cute as hell romances, LGBT romance, read it. It's so good. Oh, I love it. I'm a bit in love. I need to go finish it though, so I will catch you later. So yeah, those are the thoughts I had whilst reading the book. I didn't take too many clips, but you get an idea. I was loving it. And I'm actually just gonna put up here the finished cover because it is stunning. I actually do really like the black and white version that is on the ARC, but nonetheless I do love the finished cover a lot. And I am so excited to get my hands on a physical copy so I can have that cover on my shelves. But thoughts. Just before getting into my thoughts though, I do want to clarify this is going to be completely non-spoiler. You are safe to watch this if you've not read the book, and yeah, you will not get spoiled for anything. Trust me, I am obsessive with spoilers. I'm not going to risk spoiling you for such a good book. So unless it wasn't already completely evident, I did give this book 5 stars. It is probably a new favourite for me. I genuinely absolutely adored it. As I said, you're following these 3 sisters and every single one of them I loved so much. Oh my god, I loved every single one of them for different reasons. Juniper was sassy and funny and so unbelievably driven as a person, which was just so lovely to see. Bella is the sweetest thing. She means so well and she's so nerdy and intellectual and I love her. Agnes is really, really fascinating because she's never relied on other people and she's having to learn to possibly look outside herself, and that maybe that may not be a bad thing. And then on top of the 3 sisters, there are so many other lovable and interesting characters who I love so, so much. And so yeah, I think it's safe to say the characters really were the driving force of this book. They truly, truly were the focus. Yes, there was a plot, but the plot wouldn't have existed without these characters and their motivation. So it is definitely a character-driven book. It is also stunningly written, which isn't surprising because I've commented multiple times on the fact that the writing for the 10,000 Doors of January is absolutely beautiful. I love Alex Harrow's style of writing. So, unsurprisingly, the writing in this was another thing I loved. It wasn't as lyrical and sort of flowery as the 10,000 Doors of January. It definitely was more plot and character focused. So there was less long descriptions or big sections like that. So if you want something a bit faster paced, this may be better suited for you. As I already mentioned, this was a extremely feminist book, but in a not abrasive, not sort of forceful way. It was almost very quietly feminist, as well as being quite loud in its feminist stance. It is partially set on the background of the suffragette and suffragists movement, which, if I'm honest, I don't know whether that was actually a thing in America. It definitely was here. I know the British history of it. I do not know the American equivalent, as it was never something taught to me at school or anything, because obviously it's not where I live, but whether it was or wasn't, it's a similar idea, and they mention people like Emily Pankhurst, who's obviously key to the British movement, and it is set in what is referred to as New Salem, so it's a sort of alternate history. It's a history where the witch trials in Salem did happen, but instead of just moving on, they kind of created a new version of Salem that was not anything to do with witches. So it is very much historical, but with a very slight adaptation on the true history to make it feel slightly more fantastical and also fit the setting and the plot better. But another thing I would say about the feminism is it's done in a really almost quiet way. It's not loud and brash and trying to be feminist. It's just the reality of when women are oppressed, they obviously don't want to be, and it just shows these sisters kind of coming to terms with that and how they try to gain their power back and be powerful in themselves in a society, in a world that doesn't really want to let them. And this can be small acts of rebellion by just being themselves versus bigger acts of rebellion and actually going against the grain and like trying to gain the vote and things. But all of it was handled beautifully, and honestly, even reading a book set, 2 centuries ago in a completely different place that's slightly fictional, I felt so empowered coming out of this book. It really did just put me in that mindset. So I want to give it a lot of praise for that because it was really wonderful to see. One thing I loved though that combined the feminism and the writing style and the beautiful writing is there were a lot of quotes or idioms or sayings which often use either male pronouns or a male name, which are very well known. And a lot of them were used in this book, but with those pronouns or names switched to female. And that was honestly so cool. All those really little changes just add so much to the book and make it feel even more sort of feminist and positive and women power the whole way through, without even mentioning the topic. It just adds to it so much. So 2 examples of these very slight language changes are the first, that they're talking about fairy tales and old written fairy tales, and instead of them being written by the Brothers Grimm, they were instead written by the Sisters Grimm. And the other one, which always stood out to me, is instead of saying honest to God or something like that, they say honest to Eve, which again just very, very slightly changes that focus away from men, as it often is, especially in history, towards a more female-oriented focus, which I really personally enjoyed. But whilst reading this book, I marked so many little sections and wrote myself so many little notes, which is actually a huge benefit to me of reading on Kindle, which I haven't done previously, because I could write notes to myself. I know I could write in my books, but I don't tend to. I really enjoyed jotting down little notes though, and it's also proving very useful when trying to review it. So I'll include a clip here just scrolling through the copious notes and annotations I made, because I just find it interesting to see, and also it just makes me so excited to finally get a finished copy or a physical copy of some kind, because I will probably reread it at some point and put all of these annotations in it because I really, really want to, honestly. I really want to have a copy on my shelves which is all marked up and you can see all my thoughts in it, and just to have that to keep for future. Another thing which made me so happy is that one of the sisters, I will not reveal which because you will find out when reading, but one of them is gay. They don't necessarily identify her on the page specifically, but it is very evident from the stories that she has gone through and such that she is gay, and there is a female-female relationship. I had no idea going into this book that there was any LGBT representation, so that was a wonderful surprise for me, and I was thrilled to see it, and oh my gosh, was the relationship utterly adorable. I am obsessed. Yes, I love that relationship very much and I loved reading about it. But talking about romance and relationships, there is also another romance with one of the other sisters, and I love that both the female-female relationship and this other one did not in any way take the focus away from the sisters. It is very much a side point. Yes, they can enjoy their romances and yes, it's important to them, but the focus is still on the individual sisters and their individual journey and not just their relationships. And the focus on that relationship only really comes into play when it's to do with the sister learning about themselves and then them getting genuine positive character growth from it. So I liked that, again, the focus doesn't shift away from the female protagonists. It doesn't shift away from what they want from life, what they need from life. And not saying romance isn't important and isn't something someone should want, but again, it's their personal gain that they are looking for, and that could include a romance, but it's not solely centered on romance in any way. It's not, oh, we'll give up on our dreams because we've got the guy. It's very much, that's cool, but let's keep working towards what we're trying to achieve. But yeah, I think that is the majority of my thoughts on this. As you know, I loved it. I can't wait to get myself a physical copy, and I'm really excited for other people to read it so I can freak out with them about it, because yeah, I absolutely loved it. I think it is a stunning book. I would love a million more books focusing on different characters from this story, and I'm sure I will reread it multiple times in the future. It is stunning, it is beautifully written, it is so wholly feminist, and if you enjoy books about women, books featuring women, and really strong familial and platonic relationships, and just so many things, then please check out this book because I really think you would love it. But that is it for this video, so if you enjoyed it, please leave a thumbs up and comment down below if you want to pick up this book, if you think it sounds interesting. If you have any further questions about what I thought of it, then please let me know. Subscribe if you'd like to see more content from me. All my other social medias are linked down below in the description, as they always are, if you want to connect on any other platform. But that is it, so bye, and I'll see you in the next one.